Hello, you're listening to Storytelling Saga, the podcast that shares stories. I'm your host, Allie, and this week I'm so excited to welcome Gia Ligammari to the podcast. Welcome, Gia.
Hello, glad to be here.
So, I wanted to start actually by asking you about your creative influences growing up.
Oh, for sure. So, growing up, I have the curse, right? The curse of anime influence because some morning, one fine morning on WB Kids, anime was playing, and then that kind of like encapsulated my life. So I always have that kind of as the backbone of everything that I draw and do. But as far as other influences go, I got really inspired by like horror stuff. I've been inspired by musicals. I did musical theater for like 10 years. When I was growing up watching cartoons, I loved anything that was like, the one show that was the weird show of the network was probably the one that I gravitated towards. So I've always kind of liked like the odd one out. I remember loving shows like Flapjack and Invader Zim and, just like stuff that was strange enough to keep me entertained. And yeah.
Nice, that's really cool. And so, what's your favorite musical, too?
Oh, musical, Little Shop of Horrors. Absolutely. And isn't that funny? I said horror and it's that one, but I love that musical from like beginning to end. And I actually performed as Audrey in it when I was in college. So it holds a special place in my heart.
Oh, nice. That's really cool. Yeah, I actually first saw it in college too, like a college production of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't
It's a
know, I'm sure
classic.
yeah, of course. I'm sure you're familiar with like the original ending versus like the updated ending, like compared to the movie too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I was in that show, as Audrey, I died. I was carried into a giant plant puppet. I had to like army crawl out the back of this puppet. Yeah, straight up like death ending.
Oh, it's so funny. Oh my God. Yeah, because in the one I saw in college too, like I think they had it where Audrey died, but then some like it was like a blend of like her dying and then coming back to life somehow. I don't know.
Oh,
Because
weird.
because Seymour didn't die.
They wanted to do like the Mean Green Mother song at the end or something.
Yeah, and then it's funny because like when also they had it with like with the plant, obviously there was like two people operating the puppet, like someone doing the voice and someone like
Oh,
with the
wow.
vines. Yeah, it was like a huge ass thing. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Bringing me back.
Yeah.
But
Oh
yeah,
God.
my inspirations, it's always hard for me to answer that question because I don't really know as I go. Like they kind of fade away and just become a conglomeration of the stuff that I like. But I always think of like those shows. I think of all the performances that I've been in. And I'm a hoarder of art books. I love collecting art books because I love to see the process. It just inspires me.
Nice. That's really cool. I know I love learning about the process of just how stuff is made. Like, so it's a lot of fun.
For
And
sure.
yeah. And so for you growing up, so I'm sure like you always had a love of drawing. Were there certain things like did you try to like draw your favorite characters and then in doing that you kind of developed your own style or
You know what it was? I'm going to
Mhm.
be totally honest here because at this point, I say, copy from the people you consider masters and you'll learn, how to draw like them. So I grew up on the internet. It was in the early days of like, it was right on the cusp of dial up to, like regular internet. And so I used to go on message boards. I used to go on Neopets and DeviantArt, and primarily I would go on oikakis, they were Japanese drawing boards. And so what I would do is I would grab my favorite manga, and I wouldn't necessarily like trace it, or I would just draw in the oikaki program with a mouse and try to draw the frames from manga or comics that I loved, and then just draw my characters on them. Now, you're not going to be able to get away with that, professionally, but there's some poses and things that are just ingrained in like my Rolodex of things that I remember how to draw just because I spent so much time like copying people that I considered when I was younger to be a master. And then just learning from there, and it rolls into like actually learning the technical skills and doing the life drawing and stuff. So I think if you want to get more spice and stylized stuff in your drawings, then like I said, I collect art books. Pick your favorite art book and try to learn from those drawings.
definitely. I mean, honestly, there is that quote good artists borrow, great artists steal. So I mean,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't advocate for stealing necessarily, but that's a good way to look at it. Like you work smarter, not harder.
Yes, definitely. And I'd love to know, like, what are some of your favorite things to draw too?
I think all my life I've just loved drawing like girls doing stuff, like I went through that whole phase that artists go through where they're like, I can't draw boys, I can only draw girls. And you know why? It was because I was just drawing like the characters from comics that I liked that were, ladies or whatever. But I love drawing horror stuff. I love drawing cute but creepy stuff. And I just kind of go where my pencil takes me now. I don't so much, practice from books anymore as I just kind of like make mood boards and pull from inspiration. And so I'm inspired by fashion. I keep a Pinterest of fashion and weird retro futurist drag queen strangeness. But my favorite things to draw are, what comes to me in the moment based on like what I'm vibing with, I guess. I tend my go-to thing tends to be like something that's a bunny. Something that's a bunny with a knife.
Oh, there you go. So they're cute and creepy. Oh, that's
there
really
you
cool.
go. Yeah.
That's awesome. And then, so the opposite of that, what would you say for you personally is like kind of the more challenging things to draw?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's not so much I can't draw boys anymore because I've gone through like the gambit of learning my technical skills. So once you get technical skills down, you can draw anything that you want to. But my least favorite thing to draw would probably be, I guess backgrounds. I kind of just I tend to draw characters floating in space, which is fine. I think through boarding, I've learned how to draw really just like fast and gesturally, which is kind of my thing anyway. But I like to add more of like the implication of a background instead of slaving over all of the little details. And I think it lends itself to my style. I like a good character floating in space.
See, that works too, that works for good storytelling. And I'm also curious to know if you have perhaps a favorite medium, whether that's comics or animation or anything.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely, as I would say, digital art. I used to get really crazy with my sketchbooks in college and use crayons and just any neon thing that I could find. And I haven't done that in a long time because I got pretty consumed by drawing with, I draw digitally for my day job. And then I love my iPad. I love drawing in Procreate on my iPad. I think it's my most used, like, go-to. It's a sad day when my iPad isn't charged because I prefer drawing in Procreate over everything else. And it's funny, today I was drawing in Photoshop for the first time in weeks. And of course it crashes on me. So I definitely have to say Procreate's my place.
Oh, cool. That's the thing now. There's so many different tools and everything out there. So
Yeah.
it's like no longer the traditional like paper and pencil. Like, that's like long gone now. I mean, of course, it could always start there, but then it's a matter of like, getting comfortable with these tools too. And I know like a lot of them are like prescription based now. Subscription. Let's mean prescription.
I prescribe you one Clip Studio paint.
Yes. Okay, so going into like your career, I know you've worked on, was Jellystone the first series you worked on actually?
No, I've been around for I think 4 or 5 years now. And the first thing I worked on was Angry Birds 2, the movie. I was a revisionist on that. And then I've worked on a couple things before Jellystone. I worked on Thundercats Roar. I worked on Inside Job, and then I worked on Jellystone and etc.
Oh, cool. And then you're currently working on Tiny Toons Looniversity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, lots of fun.
That's cool. And so do you like have a preference of kids animation versus adult animation?
That's a hard question because I've worked on more kids animation than I have on adult animation. Inside Job was my first and only adult animated series that I worked on. And the pipelines are definitely different. It's really nice to be able to say, am I allowed to swear on this podcast?
Of course, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's nice to say fuck in a script. You know what I mean? It's nice to draw a character, give him the finger or something. It's always fun. But I think for what it's worth, like I enjoy seeing the shows that I work on TV, even though streaming is a big thing now. I think the kid in me that grew up watching TV, like I really love seeing kids shows on TV. And then I have 2 young nephews, and so it's really fulfilling to like share a series that I worked on with them and show them my episodes and just kind of see from a kid's point of view how they're enjoying the stuff that I'm making. So, but that goes to say for like adult stuff too. I've had plenty of friends that loved Inside Jobs. So, you know, it's fulfilling in its own way. But I think because of my experience, I'd say I like working on kids animation more at this point.
I think honestly, generally speaking, I know of course there's some exceptions, but because with adult animation, it tends to gravitate more, especially with the streaming, more towards serialized storytelling. Because if you look at, say,
Right.
BoJack Horseman, yeah, an Inside Job too.
You kind of
But
have to
then,
follow every episode.
right, as opposed to say episodic things that are just kind of, that's more so in kids animation too.
Yeah, you can just pick it up from anywhere in kids animation. And you know, my favorite stuff to work on and what I aspire to work on is something that transcends like all the generations. So like kids can watch it and parents can appreciate it too. And, you know, people my age can get a kick out of it. I feel like Jellystone is a good example of that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. I know there's like, say, for instance, Tuca and Birdie. That's kind of more, so that's adult animation, but then they're kind of
Yeah.
have more cartoony things. So I'm curious to know kind of perhaps your thoughts on the adult animation industry currently, if there's any favorite shows you have or.
Oh, I love Tuca and Birdie, and I love the show YOLO Crystal Fantasy. I don't know if you've seen that. It's just a really bizarre, it's like, it reminds me of the days that I would sneak watching Adult Swim and, you know, watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force or something, or I would watch like a Newgrounds animation, combine those two elements together, and it just gives you the weirdness and the unexpectedness. I think there's a lot of adult animation out there that has some, you know, strangeness to it that I like more. Like I loved Midnight Gospel. I just like the more artsy, strange, makes you chuckle because you didn't expect what was going to happen adult animation out there.
That's true. That's the beauty of just animation in general, that you can just do more wacky stuff,
And
obviously.
I
Yeah.
look forward to that in animation. Like even if something is an adult show, it doesn't have to be super serious. I feel like it can be pulled off, you know, just laugh at. I mean, in Tuca and Birdie, it's something I can think of is, isn't there a part where she like takes her boob off and it runs
Yeah.
away? It's so funny. It's
Like
just
her boob pops off. Yeah, that's in
yeah.
season one. Oh
Yes,
my gosh.
exactly.
Yeah, that stuff is just very fun and it's just yeah, fun visual gags.
Hmm.
But I know like I haven't checked it out yet, but there's a new show on Adult Swim, like Smiling Friends, that apparently is like really good. That's a new
Oh,
like
I've heard. I haven't watched it yet. I've had it sent to me multiple times because people are like, "You would like this. You would like this," and if they know anything about my taste, I gotta trust them. But I haven't personally checked it out, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
the thing also with adult animation is that there's a lot of long running series, of course, The Simpsons and then
Oh
South Park,
yeah,
Family Guy, and then like even Bob's Burgers is getting a feature this year, which I'm excited about actually.
yeah, yeah.
See, that show, it's a more wholesome shows because also with adult animation, generally speaking, too, it tends to be more crass, say, but I like that there's more diversity now. So like,
I appreciate the diversity too. I don't
mhm.
think something needs to be crass or, you know, all penis jokes to qualify as like a valid adult animated series. I think there's a lot of shows out there that do it just by being their own thing. And then they can still say fuck if they want to. That's
Yes,
the
right.
beauty of it.
Having the balance, I think. Yeah,
Hmm.
the occasional fuck is good. Funny. But so I know you can't really talk much about Tiny Toons University because it hasn't premiered yet, but I'm excited
Correct.
for it though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But
glad. I mean, I'm excited as a kid that grew up watching or Tiny Toons. You know, I watched Animaniacs, but Tiny Toons was the one that I leaned towards. So I was totally excited to be a part of the show and have my sensibilities kind of be part of a new season. But sorry, what were you asking?
well, no, just like yeah, I was gonna touch on like specifically with Tiny Toons. Did you like do you have a favorite character in the original series?
Oh, from the original series.
Yeah.
I will say I never had. I mean, I think when I was a kid, I probably liked all of the girls. You know, I liked Babs, I liked Shirley, I liked Fifi. But I have a distinct memory because my dad would watch cartoons with me and he would always quote the cartoons. And there's an episode where I think is Plucky a baby or something, and he just keeps going, water go down to hole. And
Yes.
so if it's not a favorite character, it's a favorite episode because I share that memory with my dad. And that's like another example of, my dad was into the cartoons that I was watching, probably because he had to listen to them so much as I was growing up and watching all these cartoons over and over again. But there are so many quotes in my family, in our inside jokes, that just come from cartoons, and that was one of them. So I can't pick a favorite, but definitely have some like embedded core memories from quoting that show with my parents.
That's so fun because for me growing up too, my dad and I, like when I was a really little kid, my dad and I loved Ren and Stimpy, and like we loved the Happy
Oh
Happy
yeah.
Joy Joy songs. Oh my,
Yeah. Cartoons bringing kids and parents together.
definitely. But I mean, for Tiny Toons, I love Babs and Buster, but I always actually loved Montana Max. Like
He's a little shit.
he really is. But I love like his voice, Danny Cooksey, and he
Hmm.
really is like such an asshole, but he's so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, the villains you love to love, or
And
you hate to
Elmira too.
love.
Yeah, Elmira too, but I know she's not in the new one. Well, they said that she's not in the new one, but she's so like crazy too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, she was another quotable one. Yeah,
Definitely.
I'm sorry I can't give you more, info about the show, but I know when it comes out, if you're a fan of the old show, then you're really going to appreciate the new stuff.
Oh, nice. I'm excited. Wait, actually, I don't know if you're allowed to. Is it on streaming though? It's going to be on streaming, or I'm not sure
I
yet.
actually don't. I don't know. It's yeah. I don't know.
Okay, no,
I
that's
never.
fair.
I never know with shows where they're gonna end up first until we're closer to ending a series. So I can't give you any information on that, unfortunately.
No, no problem. Because I know like the Animaniacs reboot is on Hulu. So, but
Hmm.
yeah. Mhm. Have you
It's
seen
one
that?
of those things. I've seen it. It looks great. They just did such a good job with it. The board artists did great, and they really kept like a stylish, updated look to it. So good stuff.
It's funny because I didn't watch the original at all growing up. I've seen a handful of
Oh,
clips here and
really?
there, but yeah, because I watched the Tiny Toons Adventure because that was on Nickelodeon, so I would always watch that. But Animaniacs wasn't on, like they didn't have that on Nickelodeon. It was on, I guess, WB.
Right.
But I did like I've seen season one. I haven't seen season two yet, but I really enjoyed it. I know they like got rid of a lot of characters though, but I like the self-awareness to it. It's just like they have the same voice actors, and like
Hmm.
it was really funny. I like Pinky and the Brain actually. I like those
Oh, the
segments.
opening sequence for the Pinky and the Brain shorts in the new seasons. They're just it's so good. I think that's my favorite part of the new Animaniacs is that opening sequence.
You're right. The animation is so cool in that.
Hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know. I could just like keep talking about like favorite shows and everything. But so
Anything you want.
so I did want to ask you though, in terms of working in general, because I'm sure you've come across this with
Hmm.
imposter syndrome.
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts on, like, I'm sure you've experienced it too. So, like, what are your thoughts on that? How do you kind of overcome that?
I experienced it last week, and I experience it with every new episode and every new show that I'm a part of. It's a really tough question because it's your inner saboteur. It comes from you, and you kind of have to. I feel like everything art related, I kind of equate to working out. So, if you're not feeling good about such and such skill, it's like you gotta dedicate a leg day to such and such skill. One day you gotta practice and remind yourself that you can do it. And also I feel like burnout is a big element of imposter syndrome because if you're diminishing returns and just trying to work and work and work just to get better, and then you get tired because you're overworking yourself, you're not going to produce good work. And subconsciously you may be thinking like, oh, this is crap, but you got to give yourself time to relax and understand. Research is part of learning too. You got to give yourself time to understand, you know it's not all going to come at once, and you're going to have good days and bad days. You're going to have days where your muscles are sore and where your drawing muscles are sore. So as far as like overcoming imposter syndrome, I think having a good network of friends and asking them every now and then, like, hey, can you say something nice to me? Like, I have friends, we support each other, and we're like, you do this amazing and you do this great. It's good to have that support from other people in your community. And then just be kind to yourself. Like, take it easy. It's just cartoons.
That's, well said. At the end of the day, it is like fun and everything. But of course, burnout and all that stuff. And that's why
Yeah,
positive reinforcement is very helpful, definitely.
absolutely. Don't be afraid to ask your friends to gas you up, you know?
Yeah, because it's hard, especially then. And I'm sure like you're still like remote too. So it's hard when you're kind of by yourself. Like, you
Yeah.
don't have
Oh, I
whatever.
miss the office so much.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's really hard working from home. I tried working as a hybrid worker, but nobody else was in the office, so it was like I was just going to a Silent Hill version of my old office. It wasn't very fun, and I feel like there's a lot of morale to be built around being with a team where they can say, like, look over your shoulder and be like, "Oh shit, like that drawing's amazing," or your pitch was really good, and you just don't get that working home from Zoom and all that.
Right. I know that's tough. But so in that same vein, like, you kind of touched on this too, though, but how do you personally deal with creative block? Do you step away for a bit or like watch something for inspiration or
Oh, I step away. I go on a
Hmm.
walk. I kind of touched on it, like you said. I I really think that like researching and looking at books and just looking at art that you like is part of the burnout, creative block, creative process. I think also, just keeping mood boards of stuff that you like. I have thousands of pins on my Pinterest board, and I get inspired by lots of people's work. And I follow a lot of people that just really, I don't know, make me want to make more stuff. The way that I get out of creative block is it's a tough one. I just kind of I do streams where I'll just draw whatever comes to mind, or I'll draw requests, and it kind of jiggles me out of my uncomfort zone, because then people are watching you and you kind of have to do it on the fly. I've actually grown a lot from streaming and just streaming myself drawing, because you don't have a lot of time to be picky about what you're drawing. You just kind of got to do it in the moment and accept it and move on, and people are going to see the mistakes. So that's, at least that works for me.
that makes sense too, because even like myself too, like with free writing, you just kind of write what comes to mind and don't stop. They say to
Yeah,
do
do
that.
like
So
a
yeah.
free writing version of drawing.
And it's like there's no right or wrong. You're just playing real,
Hmm.
so it's true. So, more specifically speaking, so as a storyboard artist, I was curious to know in terms of, are you always kind of assigned, like, how does it work logistically, maybe like assigned certain scenes, or like how does that work, like by the supervising director or whatnot?
Yeah, it's actually different for every show that I've been on.
Mm,
So I've been on shows where you get a board partner and you guys are a team for the entire show for the duration of, when you're working on it. And so you'll get assigned an entire episode. Typically on those teams, you have a director, of course, and the director will, hand out, you're going to do this half of the episode, you're going to do this half of the episode, or sometimes they even take a portion of the episode. And so in that case, you'll have a thumbs week. So the schedule goes like you have a week or two to do thumbs, and then you do a check-in for that. And then you have another week or two to address any notes that you got from your thumbs check-in. And that's when you start applying the notes and maybe cleaning up, maybe just like getting some acting in there that you'll clean up later. And then the final portion typically is you clean all of those boards up, you add your acting. Sometimes you might have to time it to audio, but it's not always the case. It's different from production to production. And then on the other hand, there's been pipelines where the director will hand out like specific scenes. Maybe if there's 10 scenes in total, I'll get 5 and my partner will get 5 if you have a partner on that team, or and sometimes you're just working by yourself. And so you go through the same process. You have like a thumbs week for those scenes, you have a cleanup week, a notes week, and sometimes it just depends on the production. There's also, in board driven shows, you have the writing period of the production, and then where you write outlines and stuff, and then when it comes to the boarding period, you're actually writing all the dialogue and getting all that in while you're boarding it, because in board driven, you just have the outline to go from. It really just depends on what production you're on. I think every production is similar but different, if you get what I mean.
yeah, I'm sure with say, I'm sure like in that sense, there's more flexibility with board driven shows as opposed to sticking to a script. But do you get to throw in your own gags, or I'm sure that varies on project to project
Yeah,
too?
I mean, you can throw in your own gags for script driven sometimes. Again, it depends on like the style of the production. But for board driven, it's even harder because you're writing it from start to end. So it's not just making your own jokes. Like you got to get you have to create the whole script. You have to create every shot and every location, and it's a lot more work.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, and just even like getting the structure and pacing, like that's like there's all these
Absolutely.
that go into it. Yeah, but that's
Mhm.
cool. I am curious to know in terms of all the stuff you've worked on so far that you can share about that's out. That do you have a favorite like gag or something that you threw in that like in any show you've worked on?
I have a couple actually. So in the Angry Birds movie, the sequel, there's this villain named Zeta, and she has like a top secret lair. And so I was a revisionist on that, and I was cleaning up some stuff, and there's a giant neon sign that they wanted, and I kind of like went a little ham, went in Photoshop, made that sign, made it look like neon, put it in all the boards, and it went from boards to 3D model to final exactly the way that I drew it. And then it ended up being the crew shirt. So I have a shirt of my own design that is an asset in the movie, which I'm really proud of. And then another one that I can think of is probably, maybe it was me, maybe it was me thinking it was me, but I have a cat named Luna, and she has a scar under her eye from where she had a tumor. She's a white cat. She's a fluffy white cat, sweet as can be, with a little pirate scar. And in Inside Job, there's a character, an evil character that has a pet cat that he carries around, and she looks like my cat Luna. So I'd like to think that I had some influence on that from my board drawing to final, but who knows?
Oh, that's so cute though. Oh, Luna's such a cute name for a cat. Oh my.
My little lady.
Oh, that's awesome. So, also, I was curious to know in terms of live action reboots of animated movies. Like, a lot of these Disney movies, it was just announced now that Aristocats, did you see that? Like, Aristocats is
Oh, I
getting.
kind of just saw it this morning. I think I saw it and like turned over in my bed and pretended it wasn't real.
Right. I mean, oh my God. So, I am curious to know like your thoughts on any of these reboots. Have you seen any of them? Or
Oh,
like,
I
what are your
have.
thoughts? You have. Okay.
Um, where do I begin? I think the deep sigh kind of tells you how I feel about it.
Mhm.
I There was a time where I thought it was really interesting that they were recreating, some animated classics into live action. I think there's some interest in that, but I really think that for the most part, the live action remakes of animated films are just muddy and they don't have the same magic. And every time I see another one, I'm just like, why? Why are we doing this? I don't know. There's just something so cumbersome about the pacing of live action that doesn't match a lot of, like, again, like I said, the magic of animation, and just the colors and the acting in animation just feels different than real people acting. So I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm sure I can like enjoy one or two of the remakes, but I don't see why we're putting all this money and effort into remaking animated classics.
I know, if anything, making an animation again, but like there's no need to, but
Hmm.
still like with the 2D animation, like whatever, three like CG animation and
It's
whatnot.
just a
But
phase right now. It's like, well, if we're gonna do it for one, we might as well do it for all of them, and it's whatever to me.
you're so right. They're like just going down the list. Okay, like check off this one. Next is this one. Okay, like I know like Lilo and Stitch is getting one too. It's like what
Of
the
course
fuck?
it is. Of course it
Like
is.
fucking stop, jeez. Honestly. But
Hmm.
but then I mean also even Avatar: The Last Airbender, they're redoing a remake on Netflix without the original creators even. So I don't know. It's kind of
I'm just not a fan of remakes in general. I think I'm long since it was, like some remakes came because technology changed and there was something interesting about that. But now we're kind of used to the way that technology has changed for filmmaking. So I don't see it personally. Like I don't have any interest in seeing, I don't know, The Fox and the Hound remade.
that'll be
It's
next, I'm
enough.
sure.
It was enough. It's enough to just exist. Go watch that.
Yeah, like watch the original and like cry your eyes out to the it's
Yeah,
so
right.
that's a good movie, but it's so Sad.
Mm-hmm.
But they're gonna keep doing it because it does pull in people go to see them. They make billions of
Right.
dollars. It's like wild, but
Yeah, totally agree.
but then I mean, of course, there's obviously the animated reboots like Animaniacs and Tiny Toons, but it's like a new series, I guess.
I had feelings about animated reboots. I like when
Mm.
animated reboots are transformative, like it's a way for a new director to work on, like a heritage property or what have you, and be able to get their unique voice into something that's being made. I appreciate that aspect of animated remakes, getting a new generation of creators to, have a dip in the pool and then further their careers. There's a lot of animated remakes where, minorities that weren't in the pool of people making animated stuff get to finally, have their chance to work on animated shows. And while I'd rather it be an original IP, it's nice that, people of color and women and anyone that wasn't able to be a part of, the animation sphere before has a chance to work on these properties that people know and love and further their career. So there is value to reboots, but I guess at the end of the day, I'm always going to be an advocate for new interesting ideas.
Definitely, and new voices. Yeah, but that's a really good way of looking at it. You're absolutely right. But I mean, I really loved the Nickelodeon, like I loved the Hey Arnold one, the
Oh,
Rocco's,
the
the
movies and
Invader
stuff.
Zim, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that
Have
was
you
really
seen all of
good.
them, or?
I haven't seen all of them. I
Mm.
did get to see the Zim reboot. They did a little screening at a small theater, and it was nice to be able to see a movie on a big screen of just something that like I cherished as a kid and that inspired me. I've seen the Rocco reboot. I can't even remember all the ones that I've seen because there's been so many. I think that was a good way to just like bring back some old stuff and give it a last hurrah, was to do a little movie of the classics.
I know, because it was a nice update. And then like I'm so greedy because like I would still love to see more though, like a new
Yeah, right.
series. But yeah.
I mean, it's amazing that it kind of became a thing while everyone's still around that made the original stuff, so you can get them cast and working on it. I think it's pretty cool.
That's true. The Zim one was just so hysterical. I loved it so much. And the animation was so cool. I know like Jenny Goldberg art directed it. It was just
Oh yeah,
amazing.
that
Yeah.
team did an awesome job. They worked really hard on that.
Yeah, and it definitely shows. It came out amazing. But so are there any upcoming shows you're excited for? Any upcoming animated shows? Or just I guess generally speaking too, any shows and movies?
I've kind of been out of the loop on what's coming up and what's in the animated sphere. I don't know if it's like bad of me to not really watch a lot of animated stuff, but I tend to watch stuff that's not animated because it's all consuming for my day to day. And then my Twitter feed is just all, my animation friends talking about animation all the time. So a lot of the time I'm not watching animation, which, I feel a little guilty about because I want to support my friends that work in it and I want to be, informed and up to date on what's being made. But I think the last thing I was looking forward to was Molly McGee, and I watched those episodes. That's a beautiful show. I watched like the first 5 episodes that they came out with. I think Disney is doing a lot of cool stuff with their female-led shows. I actually just watched. Okay, so the last animated thing that I was looking forward to was The House, and it's I couldn't tell. I think it's stop motion, but then there were some scenes where the animation was so fluid that I was like, is this a trick? Is this 3D? And they're just making it look like stop motion. But anyway, it's a very serene horror slash like horrific strangeness. I don't know. I don't want to spoil it, but it's definitely a spooky little collection of shorts that I really appreciated. And I was excited about that when I saw the poster, and I just watched that recently. But I don't know. I kind of just keep to myself and watch the same 10 things that I like to watch because I like to have it in the background when I'm working and I don't want to get distracted. I'm a person that needs like the perfect moment to watch something good. You know what I mean? Like if I'm going to watch a new show, I want to be comfortable. I want to have a snack. I want to have the time to watch a couple episodes, and I don't always have that. So I don't tend to watch a lot of stuff when it comes out right away.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense because there's so much stuff out there as it is. But then like if you want to really
Yeah,
devote the time to something new, especially, yeah.
totally.
hmm different.
I'm overwhelmed by streaming and all of the stuff
Yeah,
that's available.
I agree. Honestly, it's kind of like I've had stuff I've been meaning to watch. I've been catching up on random older series actually that I've had been meaning to watch. I still have a bunch of newer stuff I've been meaning to watch too, which is
Hmm.
like a lot. But yeah. And also for you personally, I am curious to know if you have perhaps a dream project to work on someday, whether it's a your own feature, your own
Oh,
movie,
totally.
show rather. Yeah.
I have, in my years since college and now in the like handful of years that I've worked in the industry, I simply want to make an animated short. I want a studio budget to make an animated short. I want a concise, lovely little story, funny, weird, well animated, visual delight. If I get two shorts, that's cool. But if I can have just one short, couple minutes, that's all I need right now.
Oh, nice. You could say a lot in just like a few
Yeah,
minutes.
I don't
Yeah.
need a whole series, but I've always done well in like leadership roles, and I've always wanted to bring something that I have in my head to fruition. And I don't know if show running would be for me. It's a really hard job, and I think it's harder than a lot of people realize, but I think being in charge of of an animated short, that's like a bucket list thing for me.
That's really cool. That is the beauty of like indie animation, of course, that you could just like put things up on YouTube. Because I know like Hell of a Boss, like those
Yeah,
shows are so huge right now. Vivian Madrano's shows,
for
Has Been
sure.
Hotel, yeah. Which actually now that show is picked up though, which is cool.
But
So
you got to admire the amount of work that went into making it a thing in the first place. Like I think that's a huge feat, and it's totally her style too. It's everything, you can tell that it's everything she wanted it to be.
it's so like yeah, the animation is so beautiful in that show. And then like it's crass too, but it's so good that
Yeah,
show. Oh my
yeah.
goodness. But it's just like wow, the talent on that team, like yeah,
Mm-hmm.
amazing. And then yeah, that was like Kickstarter, I guess, right? How that all started. That's amazing too, or Patreon or whatever. Yeah,
I think that's awesome.
I think that's cool that like kind of anyone could like that's what's amazing about it, having the resources and time to do
It's
it
the
though too. But
resources. I mean, the
mhm.
money that it takes to make an animated short, even, there's a lot of money that goes into it for people to be paid fairly. And I just want the resources to do that. I want a good team of people. I want them to be compensated, and I want to make something awesome.
Yes, absolutely, definitely. And I know you've touched on this a little bit too, that you also like to do Twitch streams. So like you
Yeah.
prefer, I know you've done kind of like gaming ones too, and then like drawing ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it all started back in quarantine when we didn't know what to do with ourselves. And so Jonan Vasquez has a Twitch channel where now every week he does two drawing streams and tons of gaming streams. But I started joining the drawing streams in quarantine, and it just became a weekly thing. I got so much drawing mileage out of that, and that of course inspired me to make my own channel. And finally when I got the gist of, Twitch and everything working, VTubers were coming up, and it was just like this slow incline to, okay, well, I've been streaming on my friend's stream for this long. Now I want to do my own thing. VTubers are really cool. I don't need to be myself on camera. I can be like a caricature. And so I just designed a little lady, and I had my friend Felix, who goes by Neon Stars. They figured out the rig for me. They did an awesome job. And so I pop on stream. I try to do it once a week, but I'll fall off for like a month when I'm busy or so. But it's just so nice to have this little tiny community of people that comes to watch me. Oh my God, my
Oh no.
grammar. That logs on to watch me just draw or whatever I feel like doing. I think I've got a handle on it now where I like doing drawing streams the most, because that's for me to like cool down from a day of drawing Tiny Toons all day. And then I kind of just do whatever I want. And then I got to set up to do some gaming too, because why not stream it while I'm gaming, you know? And I really like the collaborative aspect of it. There's something strange about talking by yourself when you're streaming. I think I prefer, at least two or three people. So I always try to get a friend on with me. That I think streaming has evolved into, essentially kind of a new social media for artists. And I really appreciate that space. And it's just so much fun to draw for a couple of hours for just the same handful of people and some new people that want to see what you're up to. I really appreciate that.
They're just so much fun to watch, like with you and Joan, and like we made like that Butter Puppa thing. So
oh
funny.
My God, you remember Butter Puppa. And there's just so many, like it's nice. It was nice in quarantine and we're still in pandemic. It's nice to have something to look forward to. You know, I don't typically do it every week anymore, but nice to have something to look forward to where you're just riffing with your pals and riffing with the audience and just being weird and having fun. Like I really appreciate that stream as well. And he has some really fun guests on there. Like Jenny is always streaming with him. When he gets Richard on there with him, it's just complete chaos. It's a good time.
So also, as we're kind of wrapping up here, I always like to ask your advice. So your advice for artists, and I want to be like a two-part question. So advice for artists trying to break in, and then once you're in the industry, advice for like kind of keeping up momentum and things like that.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what phase you are in your journey. If you're in school, I really recommend looking for an internship, because most, if not all, internships in animation require you to be a matriculated student. And what that means is you need to have at least one semester left of college, I think, or basically it means you have to still have college remaining because you need a semester credit to take the internship. You need to take it with credits. And so I really suggest like getting on your internship search when you're a sophomore in college, but don't be freaked out if you're like a junior or a senior, because there's still opportunities available in that sense. But internships really just get your foot in the door and introduce you to the bare minimum of the workflow. So you kind of have an idea of like, what am I getting myself into? What possibilities are there for me? Because I think a lot of people are like, I want to be a character designer, and they don't even realize all of the subsets of character design as a career. Like you could be a color designer or just design as a career path. So you can be color designer, you could be character designer, you can be an art director, you can be a background painter, you can be a background designer. Like there's so many options. And there's actually a lot on the internet that wasn't available when I was in school. So I think if you're a college student, follow people that you're inspired by, get an internship. And if you're not a college student or that just wasn't the path for you, again, I would encourage you, Twitter, even though it's a hellscape, there's a lot of people from animation posting advice all the time on Twitter. So I would really encourage you to follow people there, use their resources. There's tons of how-tos on Gumroad for boarding and other facets of animation. I know like Megan Boyd has a Gumroad how-to on boarding, and she has some brushes for Storyboard Pro on there. Yeah, and I think just networking, I get really exhausted by the term networking because networking is exhausting, but just posting your art and reaching out to the people that you like the art of, and just, there's just, I think it's a lot about networking. It's a lot about keep making art, work on not burning out. And if you're in college, make sure that you're looking for internships and ways to get your foot in the door.
Nice. That's really good advice. So, Gia, it's been so much fun chatting with you. Please let everyone know where they can find you on social media and anything else you'd like to promote.
Yes, for sure. So you can find me at Gia Ligammari for Instagram and Twitter, and then Virtual Gia for Twitch if you'd like to follow me there. I know it's a little confusing to have a different screen name, but what can you do? But yeah, if you want to follow me, I actually just nuked my Twitter. I just erased everything off of it because I wanted to start fresh. So if you find me, it's really me. I just wanted a fresh space for my art and my posts. But yeah, give me a follow. And thank you so much for having me.
And with that is going to conclude this week's episode of Storytelling Saga. Be sure to visit storytellingsaga.com for all places to listen and where to follow on social media. And as always, feel free to send me any questions, comments, or writing prompts by sending me an email at storytellingsaga@gmail.com. Next episode, it came up during this interview, and as we know, everybody wants to be a cat. I will be discussing the Aristocats. Until then, thank you for listening, and remember, write what you love.